How can world wars make an impact on history? World War I started when Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated. Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire, the Central Powers, went up against Great Britain, France, Russia, Italy, and Japan, the Allied powers. The United States joined the Allied powers in 1917. Many countries used trench warfare and heavy gun machinery as a war tactic. The Central Powers were defeated in 1918. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, created the League of Nations, an international peace organization, and punished Germany. The trenches were the most dangerous place to stay. The enemy had machine guns and air support to drop bombs. This made everything much harder for a soldier to move to another place. The trenches were filled with dead, decomposing bodies. When it rained, the trenches would become muddy, and the smell would be horrible. Many diseases came from the horrible conditions in the trenches. The diseases would come from the rats, maggots, flies, and lice. Many men endured exposure to cold, frostbite, and trench foot, a flesh-eating disease. Men would be afraid of a gas attack from the enemy. In the novel A Farewell to Arms, written by Ernest Hemingway, Lieutenant Henry was injured in a trench. He started to fall in love with Catherine Barclay before he got hurt. When he was transferred to Milan, he asked Catherine to go with him. As he was recovering, he could spend time with Catherine. Because of the war, Lieutenant Henry and Catherine Barclay's relationship was challenged, and it tested them on how they felt about each other.
Depression, a treacherous thing that unfortunately occurs due to a drastic event or events. Throughout A Farewell to Arms, the theme of depression and pain is present. From the beginning, readers can get a sense of this theme based from how the author chooses to express the scenery and landscape. When thinking about Italy, most people would think of beautiful scenery, even in the midst of war. In the book, however, it is explained as a dull, dry, gray area of land. Another idea that would suggest depression is the fact that the soldiers constantly turn to alcohol. There is hardly a moment where someone isn't drinking an alcoholic beverage, whether it's in the hospital, on the field, or at their shelters. A last thought that expresses the depression in the book is the rain. Rain may seem like such a simple thing, but as time moves on in A Farewell to Arms, it becomes evident that rain is much more than weather. It's a symbol or warning. The more times it rains, the clearer it becomes that something bad is about to result. There are times when Lieutenant Henry gets himself into sticky situations, gets himself injured, there is a glimpse of possible happiness, or a change with his relationship, and it is pouring rain. No matter the situation, there is always a part of Henry where the theme of depression is present, and there is no way to get rid of it.
How can love be found in the midst of war, not only in a world war, but an inner war against oneself? Love is fulfillment of one's life. It is the light in a dark world. Love may change one's view of it. Lieutenant Henry, through the fog of his depression, found Catherine Barclay, an English nurse. At first, the both of them are confused about their feelings for each other. Catherine is Henry's light in his own disconnected world. She transforms him into a new person, allowing him to come out and see the world for what it is. Spending time with Catherine changes his life and gives him a reason to continue living. Ernest Hemingway started out as a writer for the newspaper office in Kansas City. This experience is what influenced his prose-style writing. In 1918, during World War I, Hemingway went overseas to be an Italian ambulance driver. There, he was awarded the Italian Silver Medal of Bravery. Later on, he was injured and stayed in the hospital in Milan. There he met a nurse named Agnes von Kurowski, who accepted his proposal of marriage. However, she left Hemingway for another man. This devastated him, but influenced his writing of A Farewell to Arms.
What makes this book stand out among the others that describe the times and trials of World War I? Ernest Hemingway expresses the views of a war in a different way than most through his different writing style. Most stories of World War I don't involve a love story, or if they do, then they usually have a happy story to them. Hemingway portrays his story in more of the negative way. His story shares about the war and the tragedies that coincide with it, which is not necessarily unusual with the stories of war. The twist that Hemingway uses is that his love story is not the sweet, happy, forget about the war type of love story. Frederick Henry and Kathleen Barclay have a love relationship that is complicated beyond that of experiencing it during the war. They have complications that can relate the cause to the war, but they each also have a war inside themselves that makes this love story unusual. A Farewell to Arms does not just dwell on the tragedy of war, but also explains that a love relationship can be just as hard and drastic as the war itself.